So this is our third tutorial. Before we get into what I had originally planned, I'm going to clear up a couple things that were discussed in class today. Um, th there was a question about the CRS. We changed the CRS, and in the Wednesday's lecture, a different CRS was set, and one of the students told me that if you didn't go in and set this properly in the beginning of the project, then you would have to redo everything. That's actually not correct. QGIS supports changing your CRS quote unquote on the fly. That's what they call it. So you should be able to change it pretty much whenever. If I wanted to change the CRS in here with this map, I would just go to my project properties. I would select this enable on the fly CRS transformation, and you see this generated CRS user. This was what came in when I imported my layers from the Chicago GIS, or excuse me, my shapefiles from the Chicago GIS database. And then this CRS is the one that we were told we were going to need. As far as I can tell, these two CRSs are actually exactly the same in physical space. So I don't actually have to set this to either one, but I can, and it's not going to change anything. And if you had this set incorrectly or to something strange, you should be able to come in here and just select what you need and click apply, and then it's going to kind of regenerate everything. But it didn't change any of our map data, and we did change the CRS. Now, like I said, I think the CRSs are actually identical, so that may be why there weren't any problems, but there aren't any problems doing it that way. And if you didn't set that up, don't panic. You should be just fine. So that aside, you'll notice that the heat map that we created in the second tutorial is not on here anymore. And it's because I wasn't really satisfied with it. So I played around with it and got something I think that's a lot better. And I'm going to walk you through that process. It's not going to take us very long. But I think this could be a tool you might want to use. And if you follow these steps, I think you'll have a much better product than where we left it at the end of the second tutorial. So I'm going to go ahead and create that heat map. I didn't prep this because it doesn't really take that long. So I'm just going to select all of my data in here. I'm going to name it the same thing I had it named before. So yeah, I want to overwrite that, and then it should have kept my settings, which it did. So I'm just going to go ahead and click OK, and then that big gray blob is going to pop up. And we're going to come in here just like we did before. We're going to change the settings so that they're a little better. I'm actually going to set this at about 20. I did that last when I played around with it before, but it doesn't really, that order shouldn't really matter. I want this to be a single band pseudo color. I'm going to keep these blues. And I'm going to change this to equal interval. And before we set it to 10, but now I'm going to set it to 20. And I want it to show me these classify things. Now, if I click apply, it's going to look a little bit differently than it did before. It's a little bit more overpowering because my transparency is lower than it was before. And because we have 20 intervals, it should be just a smoother gradient, although I don't know that you're going to tell that much difference from it. The reason why we set it up at 20 intervals isn't necessarily because I wanted to get rid of those, because I wanted to smooth the gradient. It's because I want to come in here and tweak it a little bit more. So I go back to properties. And what I can do is I can start to delete these intervals. And I'm going to delete the lower intervals because I want it to, I remember I didn't like that layer to be on there. And I just kind of, it's not going to get rid of it. It's still going to have that same radius, but it's going to give it a darker color. And that's going to serve a purpose later on. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to delete about 5 of these. You could delete 10 if you wanted to. They're gone, and as far as I can tell, they're gone forever. I tried to undo this and it wouldn't work, so don't delete anything that you're not sure you want to delete. But I know I want to delete this, so I'm going to click apply, and as you can see, it got a little bit darker, and that's just so that I have some more options when I export this. Now this is a raster layer. We talked about that before. I don't have any vector data on here. So it's when I export this, I'm going to export it as a TIFF file. Um, so in order to do that, and I'm going to go ahead and do it right now, I'm going to go right click on the heat map. I'm going to click Save As, and then this screen comes up with a bunch of options. The main one you want to focus on here is this rendered image. If you select raw data, it's just going to be a black photo or a black image. There's not going to be any information on your TIFF that's useful to Photoshop. You're not going to get anything out of it. And then I want to also name my file. Now, if you put this in the same folder, or if you're trying to organize all of your data in the same folder, you're going to be real careful here. If you have a separate folder, then you can name it anything you want. But what you don't want to do is name it the same thing that the heat map TIFF is actually named in this file, because these are linked files. These aren't the information in this map can change if the files themselves change. So if you rename this TIFF and then go in and edit it, you're gonna have problems with this heat map when you open Map.gis. Now that may be something you don't care about because maybe you just don't. By the time you're getting to the post-production phase of that, maybe you're not going to go back into Map.gis, and if you do, then excuse me, QGIS. And if you do, you're just going to turn the heat map off and not care if it looks poor. But I think it's just a lot easier to save it something completely different or different enough that you're not going to get too confused. I named it Crime Heat Map 1200, which is actually, I mean, you might get those confused because the names are pretty similar, but I don't think I will, so I'm going to go ahead and save it. And you can see down here that it's saving these as a TIFF extension. So I'm going to select yes. If you did that for the first time, that dialog box won't come up. It's just I've done this already, so I'm replacing the file that I created before. And now what I can do with that file is I can come in here and find it. And it's right here. And if I open it, it's going to open in Photoshop. And remember, I don't like this, there was one crime that was here, and this is a crime map. Or if you do this with any data, there's just a single point that's kind of an outlier that doesn't really have a relationship to the other points. It's still going to make this big blob. And I want to get rid of that. And I can do that in Photoshop really simply. I can just select my magic wand selection tool here. You can take your tolerance up a little bit if you want to. If you want a more gradiated selection, I really don't. I just kind of want to get rid of it and not mess around with it. And then I'm just going to delete that and deselect that selection. And then now I'm just left with the data that had higher amounts of correlation. If I really wanted to, I could do the same thing with that. I could get rid of that. I think I would probably want to select further outside, but I don't. I mean, I'm not going to mess around with it. If I didn't want to delete it all, but I just wanted to get rid of these two blobs because maybe I didn't think they were important enough, then I could select it and delete it. But I'm just satisfied with this where it's at, so I'm just going to go ahead and save it. And then because this is raster data, when we go to Adobe Illustrator in the very end, you're going to have to take this in as a raster. You're going to have to kind of scale it over your map. And you shouldn't, I don't think you'll have any pixelation problems. I don't think you're going to have a huge scale difference, but it's not going to be as simple as the other things. But then again, this is the only way I can find that actually gives you this kind of gradiated information where you can take points and then see how if they're close to one another, how that, the intensity of the correlation or the intensity of their proximity together. So if that's what you want to do, then you're going to be using this heat map tool, and then because it's raster, then you just have to deal with that. So just be aware of that. I've already saved it, so I'm just going to close out of it. And that's all we're going to do with the heat map. So let's move on. I'll just turn it off. So in our studio, a lot of the students had trouble getting the data from this American Fact Finder website. There's a lot of good information on here, but it's finding it is not intuitive. And I was having trouble with it, and a lot of the other students in my studio were having trouble with it. On that note, I do want to thank Chaz from my studio, who had figured out how to navigate all this and then put it into QGIS, and he showed it to me. So thanks to you for that. So we're putting it in this tutorial because we're having trouble with it. The first thing to note is that I had to go through a couple of menus to get to this web page. But I'm just going to link this web page in the description below. So you should be able to just click on it and it'll bring you here. So next I'm going to go to this Geographies tab. And you want to make sure, by default, this most requested geographic types is going to be selected. You want to make sure all geographic types are selected. And if you don't do that, then the chances are that what we're going to do here is not going to work. And that's going to be why. And it's going to be frustrating if you don't catch it. So just make sure you click on this all geographic types. Because the information we're actually going to select in this next drop down is not one of the most requested geographic types. So it's just not going to be there. Then I'm going to go down to this drop down, and I'm looking for block 100. So it's part of the census tract 140. It's kind of a subset of it, it looks like to me. I wish I could tell you why block 100 was the magical block. I don't know, but it's what works. So you want to go ahead and select it. Then you're going to select your geographic vintage. You're going to select the state, which is Illinois. And it's going to keep taking us through these drop downs. We're in Cook County. Now this select the census tract, you don't want to mess around with this. Just leave that alone, and you want to select this all blocks within Cook County, Illinois. And then what you're going to do is you're going to click on this add to your selections. So now if you look up here in your upper left hand corner, it says search using block 2010, all blocks within Cook County. So anything that we search from here, it shouldn't come up unless it's part of this. So that's going to help us filter out any data from Kansas or wherever else. So from here, you're going to have to kind of just go through and find what you're looking for based on your individual projects. I'm going to use, I'm going to look for something based on a problem that one of the students was having in my section. So that's what I'm going to use. It may not be useful to you, but the process should remain the same. No matter what kind of data you're using. If you're looking for race and ethnic groups, or you're looking for some industrial or occupation codes, or just whatever these topics are, whatever that is, you need to select that for your own project, because it's going to be unique. But I'm just going to come over here and not choose this. And I did it again. So I want to go to housing. We're going to look for whether or not a house is occupied or vacant. So I'm going to go ahead and select that, and then I'm just going to close and see what kind of information that's going to give me. So I'm just kind of looking through these things. This occupancy status is what I want. It's what I downloaded before. While I'm in this page, there's some things I need to take note of. There's a whole other page I could go look at that and see what's in there. Um, I mean, there might be things that would be useful, but since I already did this with this one table, I'm going to go ahead um, and use this one. So this, see where this ID is coming up, this H3. That's going to become important in just a little bit. So I'm going to select this checkbox, and I've already downloaded this, so I'm not going to download it, but here's where you would download it. I don't think this file took very long to download, but some of these files are going to be huge, and they're going to take a while to download, so just be aware of that. I'm going to go ahead and select on this and see what will pop up. It might take it a moment. So this is the page that comes up. There's a lot of information on here that I'm not too worried about it. What I do want to make sure I get while I'm in here is this link up here. There's a PDF that we want to download. And I think you're only going to have to download this once, even if you grab more than one table. I'm pretty sure they're all the same. But you want to make sure you download this PDF because it's going to give us some information that we need. Now I've already downloaded it, so I'm not going to download it again. And if I open it up, this is what it is. It's this 2010 census summary file. There's a lot of information here. You know, the vast majority of it isn't going to be all that beneficial to us. But it does have all of our table information on it that we just downloaded. So I want to go ahead and find that. Now, before I said, you know, you needed to remember that H3 ID, and that's the reason is so we can search for it in this PDF, so we don't have to scroll through everything and read everything. I'm going to select whole words only. That's just going to keep it from popping up anything that's got H3 in the string. So if there was an H33 or something like that, it would find it and select it. And I just want H3, so I select whole words only, and then I tell it to find that. And that's a table of contents. So I'm going to keep going. Looks like, you know, it definitely looks like I'm on the right track because it's got this occupancy status, which is what I was looking for. But I actually want it in the I want to look at the table, so I'm going to keep cycling through this. So here is the table. Here's the table data, and it's for table H3, and it's a pretty simple table. That's why it didn't take that long to download. But it's got some strings in there that we might be useful for us later if we wanted to search for, you know, just vacant homes. Then we might be able to use this as a filter parameter. So having this table is really helpful. That's all there is in there for that H3. So you know, this may be really helpful to you, or you may not use it all that much. But I definitely think you want to download it and just have it. So let's move on. You know, on that note, I think we're going to end this tutorial right there. You know, a lot of people aren't going to use the heat map, and some people have a handle on downloading the information. So I'm going to stop the tutorial there. I think it's getting a little long anyway. So the next tutorial, we're going to put that occupancy data onto our map. And then we're going to color code it just like was done in Wednesday's lecture. But that should probably be a standalone tutorial. So you know, that way if people already know that information, they don't have to watch 20 minutes of something they already know, or just click through it till they finally find the information that they need. So I'm just going to go ahead and stop there. So I'll start making the next one right away. So hopefully that should be up tonight.